Hey, hello there. Alright, so this is going to be a very quick tutorial on how you can make a level block for your level, be it on testbed or if you've got your own server. Now again, this does require that you have a server you can script on. Oops. A server you can script on, and that you have access to, well, creating a level and using NPCs on set level. So the first thing that you'll need when making a level block is going to be, of course, a list of people that are allowed in that level. So for this, we want to call the Uncreated function, which is the first function that gets called whenever an NPC is placed on a level, or whenever the level is updated, or like when somebody comes into the level, then you have another function for that, but we'll get to that in a second. So on the Uncreated function, we want to define who is allowed on the level. So let's make a variable called this.allowed players, and this variable is going to be an array. And if you don't know, an array is basically a type of variable that allows you to store multiple information in it in the form of a list. And this is basically what we want. We want to be able to make a list. Ah, you realize what I did? I didn't change my screen. Man, that should require a redo. Hold up, one sec. Un segundo. Ah, how could I forget? All right, after that epic fail, I think we're good now. Let me just wait for it to change on my end of the stream as well. Okay, we're good. All right. I'll just repeat myself really quickly. So, things you'll need is a server to script on, and your own level where you can use the NPC editor if that server happens to have an NPC editor. So, again, the first thing you'll need will be an uncreated function. So, function uncreated. Function uncreated, and then we're going to need a variable which works as a list of who is allowed on the level, and anybody that is not on this list will be automatically kicked from the level. That's the easiest way to do it. But if you want to have it the other way, where certain people can't enter the level, then that's something that you could totally do as well, and I'll explain how to do that later on. So let's make this list. Again, it's going to be a variable, and let's call it players, and that's going to be equal to an array. And within this array, we want to do this. We want to type in the Graal ID of the people that will be allowed. We could do it with nicknames, and we could do it with, like, for example, gang tags, but you see how anybody pretty much can change their name, so they could just change their name to something that's on the list, and then they'll be able to enter the level. So the safest way to do it really would be using Graal IDs, because that's something that you can't change. So I'm gonna add my own Graal ID here, and it's very important that you add yours and don't misspell it, because otherwise you're gonna be kicked from your own level, which kind of sucks. But yeah, we have the array going on at the moment. It's only my ID here, but we could add other IDs. So for example, Graal 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, or we could just keep on adding other IDs, like Graal backwards 7 6 5 4 3 2 1. And the important thing here is that they're put within quotation marks, and that the last person on the last ID on the array doesn't have a comma. So this is not testbed. No, this is my own server. So again, you want to make sure that the last ID doesn't have a comma in it. Okay, so you have your list ready. So now we need a function that's going to get triggered every time somebody comes into into the level. And luckily, there's something built in for that, which is called function on player enters. And this function immediately gets called as soon as somebody enters the level. Now, we want to do something within this function right here. We want to check whether or not the person that just came in is in the list of allowed people. So the way that we do that is we make an if statement. If player.account, and player being the person that just came in, and account being their ID, if their account is in that allowed players, and it's very important again that you don't misspell the name of the variable either. So if their account is on the list, then we want to do something. But actually, what we want to check is if they're not on the list, because if they're not on the list, then they should be kicked. Otherwise, it's fine. They could just come in. So the way that we turn this into, because this currently reads as, if the ID of the person that just came in is in the list of people allowed, we have to turn that into the opposite. And the way that we do that is we put another parenthesis here, and we add an exclamation mark, and then we have to add another parenthesis at the end. And now this reads as, if the account or the ID of the person that just came in is not on the allowed list of people, then here's where we want to put some of our code. So now, what we could do here is we could do several things, but first let's get them kicked out of here. Let's send them to another level. And to do that, we could use player.set level 2, and again, it's targeting the player that just came in, and we're going to send them to another level. So the first parameter that this takes is the name of the level, and then takes in an x coordinate and a y coordinate of the level that you're sending them to. So in most servers, like Testbed, for example, they have a, I guess you could call it starter level, which is called online start local.nw. Again, this could be whatever level name you want. If you want to check what level you're in currently, you could just press F5 if you're on Windows, and it will show you this, and this is the name of the level you're currently in, as well as the x and y coordinates. But of course, you wouldn't want to send them to the same level that you're in. You want to send them somewhere else. So you could go to another level and then do that, and that's how you could get the name of the level. So we're sending them to online start local, and here I'm going to put 32 by 32 because in case you don't know, a level is 64 by 64 tiles. So 32 by 32 is pretty much in the middle of the level. So it's a good place. It's a good coordinate to use if you don't have any other specific coordinates. This is just going to send them to the very middle of that level. So that's done. So whenever they come in, if they're not in the list of people allowed, then they're going to be sent to that level. What we could also do is we could have them say something. So we could do this: player.chat equals I'm not allowed on that level. And now after getting kicked, or we could just do this even before, it doesn't really matter, it's all going to be executed, but I'm going to put it before. So before they get kicked, it's going to say I'm not allowed on that level, then it's going to kick them. And now the rest of stuff that we are, you make hacks? No, I don't make hacks. Now what we're going to do here is for us as the owners of the level to know when somebody comes in. So we probably want to have this NPC that we've created, which is this one right here. We want to have it say who just tried to come into the level. So let's do that. This.chat equals, and here I'm going to use the format method because it's a very elegant way of keeping information organized. So if you don't know how formatting works, basically there are these, and this is not the only one, but there are basically these keywords that you could use to replace the keywords themselves with the value of variables. So for example, if I do this %s and then parenthesis %s, close the parenthesis, tried to enter this level. Now as parameters here, I could add in the order from left to right what these %s should be. So the first one, I want it to be the nickname of the player that just came in. So player.nick, and then the other one I want it to be their ID, player.account. And now these right here are going to be replaced with the variables right here. So whenever somebody tries to come in, if their ID is not in the list, it's going to say that they're not allowed. It's going to send them to another level, and then the NPC is going to say that they try to come in. So I'm going to test this right now. I'm going to remove this line here. Not really remove it, but just comment it so that it doesn't kick me out. I'm going to change my ID. All I'm going to do is just remove a 0. My ID is now not on the list. So when I press apply, it's going to say magic my ID, try to enter this level, and I would be kicked, but again I commented that out. So let me update the level. There we go, and it says that I'm not allowed on the level. So let's fix this up and let's uncomment this. Now, some other useful information we could get is when they tried to come into the level. So we could make a variable for that. We're going to make a variable called temp.timestamp, and that's going to be equal to, there's a function within Graal called convert time to string, which I could do script help convert time to string. What did I do wrong? Script help convert time to string, convert time to string, convert time script help. What do you mean? Oh, I'm missing the N. Convert. There we go. Convert time to string. There we go. And that's built into the scripting language, and it does specifically that. It takes something like time var2, for example, and then it turns it into a date. So we're going to do that. Convert time to string, and then we're going to feed it time var2. And now we need to add this to the information that the NPC says. So let's add a period, and let's add another percentage %s, and then at the end here we're going to add temp.timestamp. I made a capital S. There we go. Oh, and let me uncomment this because I don't want to be kicked. And let me remove 0 here. So now, in addition to saying who got kicked, it's going to record the time at which I got kicked. And not just the time, but even the date and the year, and the day of the week too. So Tuesday, September 15th, which is today's date. And the time, it's in military time, but if you really wanted to get the time, you could do some stuff to convert this to regular time, or AM and PM and all that stuff, and the year as well. So every time somebody comes in, if they're not in the list, it's going to say something like this, and of course it's going to kick them. So let's say that you wanted to do it the other way, so that there's certain people that are not allowed in the list. So you can make another variable called this.dad players not allowed, and that's going to be another array. And right here, I'm just going to put my ID, Graal 272, and I'm going to comment this one out. And I'm going to comment this function out as well. Well, not the entirety of it. I'm going to steal some of it. So now we're doing it the other way around. We have a list of people that we don't want, and we want everybody else. So it's pretty much the same thing. All you have to do is remove this not here and change the name of the variable. So player, this would be players not allowed. This.dad players not allowed. And then it's going to be the same thing pretty much. So if they're in the list, then it's going, if they're in the list, it's going to say I'm not allowed on that level, and it's going to kick them. So this would be pretty much like a white list of who's allowed, and then this would be like a black list. And then you could also even mix both of them, and I'll teach you how to do that in a second. But first, let's test this right here. So press apply, and 20722 player account, and this player is not allowed. Player is not allowed. Where's the error? Player enters. I don't see, why isn't it kicking me? It should be saying Graal 20722. Player that account and player is not allowed. We have a little bug in our code. That player is not allowed. Let me make sure that I didn't miss. I did. I missed an L. There we go. So that's how you can do a blacklist. So now let's say that I don't know. I don't really see what scenario you would like to have it where you have both a blacklist and a whitelist. But you could also change. You could have it so that it shows different messages. So, for example, now I have both lists of people that are allowed and people that are not allowed. We could do another check here. We could do if player, and let me switch this back to what it was. Allowed players. So if they're not on the list, it's going to say this. Now let's check if more than just not being on this list. Let's check if they were on the blacklist. So if player that account in this stat players not allowed, then we could do another function here. We could do player that chat equals blacklisted from this level, from entering this level. Else, if they're just not in the list and they're not blacklisted, then let's have it say I'm not allowed on the level. I should ask, or just ask iMagic for access or whatever. Dope. So it's gonna make them say different messages depending on whether or not they're blacklisted. But it's all gonna kick them the same, so that's why I still have this on the bottom. So we can make another variable. So let's make another variable called temp that is blacklisted, and this variable is going to rely on this. If the player that accounts in this stat players not allowed, then it's going to be yes. I can't spell. Otherwise, if they're not in that list, this variable is going to equal to no. So we're gonna have this is getting pretty lengthy here. Let's do this to keep it more organized. So here, let's do this. Where are they blacklisted? And then here it's going to say either yes or no, and then it's going to show the timestamp. So this variable needs to go before the timestamp. So temp that is blacklisted, and then the timestamp. There we go. So I want to remove the kick, because again, I don't want to kick myself from I don't want to kick myself from the level. So I'm going to remove myself from the allowed list. So now I am on the blacklist. So I'm going to press apply, and I'm going to say, are they blacklisted? Yes. And then you see that it showed me the different text. So now let's test it the other way around, where I'm not on the blacklist. So all I'm going to do is add another 0 here, and I don't have to add myself back up here, but I will. So now it's going to say, were they blacklisted? Wait, something went wrong. Something went horribly wrong. Player that count this, players are allowed. Where did I go wrong? Oh, it's not running the code because I'm on the list of allowed people, so I should indeed remove myself from it. There we go. So it's going to say that they're not blacklisted this time around. So yeah, it's just something that you would have to play around with and see what it is that you want to do. But that really concludes this little tutorial that I wanted to do, and I hope that this is something that you'll find useful, because I know that in testbed there's a few people that could be annoying sometimes. So I hope that this helps you. Even better, you know what you could do? You could put this on a class. And actually, before I end it, that's what I'm going to do. So if you don't know what a class is, when you go to RC, this little icon right here with the paper, these are called classes, and they're basically, in short, they're basically scripts that NPCs could listen to, or in other words, whatever is on a class, you could have multiple NPCs be listening to that. So let's make a new class. Let's call this blocked players. And this class is going to have the exact same script that is here. And I'm actually going to remove it from here. You'll see why in a second. Gonna put it here. And I'm going to press apply. You could also check this way if there's any errors on your code. So there aren't any here. Okay, so now what you could do is you could hook up this NPC to that class. So they'll copy whatever script is on there. So the way you do this, you could do function on created. This.join, and then the name of the class. Blocked underscore players. So blocked underscore players. And that's it. Then you just hit apply, and it's going to keep running the same code. Now, why would I want to do that for? Let's say that I want to have the block on another level. So let's go to online start local. WP online start local .w. So let's say that I want to have the block on this level as well. I'm either going to have to copy and paste the entire script that I had before onto this NPC, or script it again. And then what if I have somebody on that list that, you know, they became friends with me, and now I want to add them to the allowed list? I'm going to have to go, if I don't use a class, I'm going to have to go level by level, updating the list of people that are allowed in my levels. So I don't want to do that. That's a lot of work. So that's when having a class becomes beneficial, because you could just hook this this NPC right here. You could just hook it up to the same class, and they're going to listen to the same script. So I could just do function on created this.join blocked underscore players. There we go, and it's going to copy the same script. There we go. And now if I want to add myself to the list, it's going to do it for both levels, not just one. So if I want to remove myself, I'm already not on it. That's somebody else's ID. There we go. And all I have to do now is update the level. And then it's not going to recognize me as being blocked anymore. And if I go to my other level and I update it, it's not going to say that anymore either. There we go. So yeah, that's that's a very, very vague explanation of what classes are, but yeah, that's just how you could keep your code a little more organized and make it even more useful to you. But yeah, that really concludes the little tutorial thing that I wanted to do.